This is New Mexico. And I'm just a little bit north of Las Vegas, New Mexico. Wind's picked up. The wind's going to be a bit of a bastard. We'll see how we do. Just under an hour to get to my exit. I got 719 miles left to go, so very big holes this morning in New Mexico. I'm surprised I've still got an axle left on the front. I'm surprised I don't have broken springs. Man, they scared the life out of me. It was dark and parts of it was raining and I hit it and I'm like, holy Lord. And it cracked my power steering reservoir, which is just a plastic bottle. We put a little crack right at the back where it always cracks because it's a weak point on these trucks. It's a weak point on Freightliner. They've always had it in the same place and they've never really moved it. They've kept everything the same through most of their trucks, so but they put a crack in it, so it leaked oil. I got rags round it at the moment to slow it down. I'll have to get back to Grand Island if I can and get it all washed off. That's hopefully my plan. Pick up a new reservoir, so if not I'll have to repair this one, but I think I can get a new one. These are just, they get old, they just get brittle and old and worn out. They get tired. So we'll see how we do. Not the end of the world, and I caught it before it got too bad, so and it won't take much to wash the oil off. Well, power steering fluid. That'll be the second one now. I've already gone through one. This will be my second one now. So peaceful. That's the main thing, that it's peaceful. So we're going to pick up Highway 412 and I believe that we're going to run that pretty much nearly all the way up to or through, I think it goes New Mexico, I believe it goes into Oklahoma. I don't know if we cross Texas or not, we'll find out. I might put it down as the name of this place because we're not too far away from here. That was Watrous, wasn't it? Watrous. That's funny. Watrous. We'll put it down as Watrous because we're pretty much on top of it, so that'll Watrous, no, Watrous, W-A-T-R-O-U-S, Watrous. Yeah, I have not run this road for a long time. Like, I have not run Interstate 40 for a long time. Interstate 40 and me, we have not run for a very, 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 very long time. And that was insane how bad that road's become. I mean, it was never 100%, but oh my lord, that thing is just straight up nasty now. And so I have not run that, and I would have gone top end if it wasn't for the storm that came through and hit Colorado. If there hadn't have been any storm, I would have just gone straight back north again, Utah, Colorado, and probably wouldn't have had this problem. But I'm glad it came along. I'm glad it's been caught now. So now I just got to get it fixed, and that's it. That's an easy fix. Trailer in a long time. You see them very often. I think when we come out of spring, I'm going to put new windshields in, but after I just basically had X amount of work done to the truck prior, which was wheel seal, left hand side wheel seal had to be replaced, service the truck, fix the fuel filter, the fuel filter housing, that had to be replaced, the pre-filter, the plastic dome, so that had to be replaced, the rear end, the drive line basically, done before, that had to be replaced. So that was $1,550 just for the drive line that goes between your two differentials, which is your main drive anyway. That's the thing, that because you drive from the rear axle, so you're driving from the rear axle, and then your front axle you're pretty much pushing along, which is why you use so much fuel really, because you're pushing a dead axle along. It's driving, but it's not driving all the time until you lock it in. So your rear axle is driving along and your front axle is being pushed by the rear axle. I had to replace the output seal on the rear end again because last time they didn't do it right. So I did a wheel seal, the rear drive line. They got a name for it. It's a very technical name, it's just a drive line. So I did a wheel seal to drive line, redid the output seal. Did the oil change, greased the truck, fixed my glad hands, or our palm couplings as we like to call them, or elephant ears. So fixed there. I think that was about where I'm at by the time we'd finished on everything. And then my bill was like, I think it was $3,586, so. Which weren't too bad, it's pretty decent for all the work that was done, including labour. So now I just got to get in and get this part fixed and rewash it all off again, which is normal anyway, because I normally wash it off regardless, so I just go back in and wash it all off and start again. Have I got any more rain? I don't know. We'll wait and see. It's a beautiful day today, so I'm sort of glad that I got out of the weather. Came through Flagstaff yesterday, and I got out of California. I got to Barstow. I brought fuel in Barstow. I parked up in Barstow for 3 hours because the weather was sort of having it was just a mass amount of rain. And I parked up, took another nap, started again because I knew then I'd be able to see as the day went on, daylight would come, I could see what I'm up against, and I knew Flagstaff was a problem, and I'm glad I didn't carry on, because in Flagstaff there was a truck that had laid on its side, so that had happened that day, that morning, so I was fortunate. Whoever laid it on its side wasn't fortunate, but I was, so I missed all that, come through, and it was snowing and icy, but I got through it all with everybody else because it was just sort of rain. It was right on the cusp of freezing but rain. The roads were wet enough, so got out of that, got out the other side, got over to Holbrook, Winslow, and I got fuel at Winslow, and I stopped at Winslow, and I called that quits, and then I started again in the early hours, then run, got to there, which is basically between Las Vegas and Watrous, stopped again. Speaking of Alabama Chief this morning, and then I fell asleep on him, which I'm good at doing. When you're trying to work days and nights, you don't really get a lot of sleep. And then yesterday was awesome because truck stops are awesome, but they're not. I mean, they're good for certain aspects. Sleeping wise, they're bloody awful. They're just of no use. So of course I parked up yesterday between two trucks and I had a straight shot out, and that was awesome. And I fell asleep, and I really did. I fell asleep, and I was like, and I got a good time. I was getting into a deep sleep, and love of all, there's some person outside, two of them actually, a geezer and a woman, geezer and a bird, who was screaming at the top of their lungs. And of course I never pull my curtains. I like to have them open so I can see what the hell's going on in case I gotta go, got to rush out or whatever. Pulling curtains is great. I don't like, it's claustrophobic for me. I mean, I don't mind pulling them, but I prefer to have them wide open. I don't like being claustrophobic. And I like to see all around me in case something happens, so I've got an out rather than being trapped. So they were screaming at the top of their lungs. Well, they were screaming because their two dogs are just wandering off, running underneath trucks and trailers, and of course the drivers of the trucks and trailers are watching for the dogs, but they're not exactly going to stop, and I don't blame them. So the geese are just screaming and screaming instead of going after the animals. They just kept screaming at the top of their lungs right beside my fucking sleeper. And I'm like, all right, okay, I sure appreciate that. And I always try to be a little wary of where I'm at. If I do any work or anything to something, or if I've got to have something done, I try and stay away from everybody so that I don't disturb them, so I'm not breaking their peace and their sleep in their own time. So that woke me up, and them screaming at the top of their lungs, and then eventually walked up to get his dogs. Yeah, I huff because it's like you just have no consideration for anyone else, man, and you're in this industry. I mean, it ain't even been about a whiny Karen, you know what I mean? Oh, you're whining like a Karen. Well, no, not really. I was trying to sleep. And the thing about truck stops is that 99.9% of the time, there's people sleeping. People sleep all times of the day and night. So it's always a... It's why a lot of people pull into parking spots, because they don't want to have to A, back into it, and B, they don't want to put up with all the noise. So that's why they do that. There's a mixture of reasons, but that's the main reason. They don't want to deal with the noise, and they don't want to listen to people screaming for their dogs at the top of their lungs, or screaming at somebody. Like the other day when I was in Vegas, I pulled into Vegas, I'm waiting on that tyre to get changed. I laid down because I knew he was going to be a few hours before he even got to me. He told me that. I laid down, and then there's some geezer, and I don't know what the hell he was. I don't know if he was on his phone. I think he was on his phone. Anyway, he was screaming at the top of his lungs, and I'm like, seriously, dude? You're going to have a meltdown in the parking lot of a truck stop, and you're going to scream at the top of your lungs, and all right, I guess you're going to wake me and everybody else up there. That's awesome. I appreciate that. So truck stops are never fun. They never really are. Parking areas, rest areas, parking areas, just little mum and pop truck stops are way better, but they're not always easy to find. A lot of them closed down, so there's not so many around anymore. And you're trying to find them so you can park up, well, because they shut a lot of them down, they barricaded them off so you can't get into them. But mum and pops are the best. I mean, I love little mum and pops. You get in there, most of the people there are not screamies and shouties and loudies that, you know, and you do, you really do try to get sleep, so it's pretty much the aspect of it, is you're trying to get some sleep. So all I got to do now is make it as far as I can today, take another nap, get up, get over, but I'll be out of time by the time I hit Omaha, which is not even, I'm not 100% into Omaha, I'm just on the outskirts, but by the time I hit Omaha, I'll be out of time until Friday morning. So I've got to see how this power steering box holds up. I put two cloths around it, two rags, two rags. I wrapped it around it and pulled it tight, and hopefully that'll hold for now and slow it down a little bit. It'll probably get soaked in oil, but that's okay. If I can slow, that's what I did last time, so if I can slow it down, I'll be happy. So. Hopefully get back to Grand Island and get the new one and wash the oil off. And it's not everywhere. It's made a mess, but it's not 100% mess. So I can get under the truck and wash all that off. That's not a problem. I'm not worried about that. I'm more concerned with just picking up a new one. Hopefully I can maybe work my way back over to Rensselaer to Indianapolis. There's some words in there. Well, they're all close to each other. To Indiana, to Rensselaer. Go back over to my area, which is pretty much how I've classed it to be my area. Like, see if I can get back over there, because I do pretty well over there out of Rensselaer. I do alright out of Grand Island, but I do better out of Rensselaer. not used to these long hauls. I can do them, I'm just not used to them. I fell asleep on Alabama Chief. I was tired this morning. When you don't get much sleep because people wake you up and it's broken sleep, and then you do get back to sleep, and then you keep yourself going, you know. And I wasn't falling like, oh my God, you're going to fall asleep at the steering wheel and kill people. No, it's not like that. This job will always give you broken sleep. It's awful. It's like working night shift. You'll never get 100% sleep. That's why people, when they come home to go to sleep, and they live around the neighbourhood that's really noisy, it's hard work for them here, because our houses are not 100% soundproof, so people outside, traffic and noise and everything else, it's enough to keep you awake at times. That's why night shift is awesome, but we weren't designed to work through the nights. We're designed to work in daylight hours. So sun comes up, we're awake. Sun goes down, we go to sleep. We're not used to doing that. That's the human body's not designed for that. We design ourselves to do that. So. But I was so used to, and I'm still so used to pulling reefer, as in fridge trailers, before this, that I'm still used to working nights, because that's pretty much all I did was night work. In California, well, I always wait before I come out of California, so I don't want to lose a heap of time. So I choose not to come out of California early, or when it's rush hour, because I know I'll lose all my drive time. No, I never will make it then. No, it's not going to happen. To get up here, get unloaded. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to have next. They can't have a load pre sign because I'll have no hours. So, and they should know that looking at my board, so, or my logbook. I just call it the board because that's what they got to look at. See where I'm at. I do always enjoy coming up through here. It's been a long time. I came through Santa Fe. Santa Fe's where I first sort of started working at, in respects of Monte Vista in Colorado, because we were going down to Roswell, New Mexico. So Santa Fe was, we would come down to Santa Fe, and then we would run down to Roswell. So it's always entertaining, or it was entertaining. It brought back memories, let's put it that way. When I came through there this morning, I didn't get recorded because it was dark, and you didn't really get to see where I came around, which I think was on 280. I think it's 285. I think we used to come down Highway 285. Oh, there's a little truck stop. Wagon Mound. I love the names of these places. And then, of course, when you look over in these yards, and that people's yards, and that you see the most awesome stuff, just the most amazing stuff. I love back road trucking. And Interstate 25 really is a back road because hardly anybody uses this road. It's very quiet along here. From the north to the south, it's very quiet. It's got a lot of history through New Mexico, especially around here. There's a lot of signs everywhere. straight on up 25 here, it'll put me into Colorado. Then it'll put me over towards Fountain, Colorado, where we came out of that day with all that mulch on. And it'll put me up in that area. But we're not going that far up, we're cutting across. Airstream going the other way. Airstreams are so cool. Railway line and we haven't seen one train yet. That's awesome. I see a heap, and the minute we go recording we don't see any. It's so funny. It's sort of this is sort of like an area where, because I'm such a hermit at times, I really am a hermit, quite easily live out here just for the peace of it. I think that's what the beauty of it is it's the peace. It's knowing that you got blue skies like this and then just the peace of it all. But them winds would be a bastard, because them winds are huge. But I do like the tranquility and the peace of it, so, and the view. They say eventually you get bored of the view. I don't know. I think that view right there when you come over the top. Of course, for me, it's much better than the camera, because the camera doesn't pick up nowhere near what I can see. So it's huge in my eyes. I can see everything in the distance and the vastness of it, and the mountains. And it's awesome. And then occasionally there's little houses. Every now and then you'll see a little house or a farm. And some of the buildings are abandoned. People aren't there anymore. A lot of generations didn't carry on. I know there's a lot of what they call it. Gosh, I'm so what a brain fart. I got a brain fart. Me and Alabama Chief were talking about it the other day. Reservations. I know there's reservations in places. So I worked on a reservation when we came down into New Mexico. Oh man, I can see the place. I can't think of it. We worked. So when I first come to America, and I was working the harvest, as we call it, but over here it's custom harvesting. So when we was doing the silage and cutting the alfalfa, and we came down to New Mexico. Lordy. I think it was near Santa Fe. I believe it was near Santa Fe, if I remember. I think, but I could be wrong. No, because I think we came down Wolf Creek Pass. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there, because I truthfully can't remember it. But we worked on the reservation down there, cutting for it. I know, because I was working the tractor, and I was basically rowing, putting the alfalfa into rows for them to pick up and cut, put it into the trailers. And I know, because I was working through the night, and I felt I didn't fall asleep. I didn't fall asleep driving. Well, no, I didn't fall asleep driving. That's right. When I was on the tractor, but I was getting so tired I couldn't stay awake. And then I did fall asleep. And when I woke up, I lost one of the wheels. Oh wow! One of the wheels fell off. That's the trouble with night time, man. You can't see anything. So I'm not perfect. I'll never proclaim to be perfect. It's the one thing I'm not. I enjoy my job and I love my job, and I believe at times I've become good at my job because of the years of understanding it more than anything. But I'll never be the best at it, never. And there's way more people out there that are probably better than I will ever be. But I'm good at what I do, and I'm comfortable with what I do. And I always say that's what matters. As long as you're comfortable with what you do. So I've never become complacent though. Occasionally there's been times where I've got stuck in a rut and I need to get myself out of it. Then there's another New Mexico comment. Yeah, I've been stuck in a rut and that, but I normally kick myself in my butt and get myself out of it, so I don't stay in it. I don't like being in ruts. And I don't like being miserable either. I don't believe we should be. It's not easy to be happy all the time. There's a lot of people that struggle with that, and I understand that, but I will refuse to be a miserable wanker. If I feel that's coming on, then I've got to work myself out of it and not let it happen. I'm the only person that can do that. Nobody else can do that for you, so I am the only one. There can be only one. It's going down to the oil fields and that. Oh, it might not be oil fields, but it's taking it to. always say it's easier to, depending on how many tarps you've got, depending on what you've got, sometimes it's easier to throw an extra tarp or two over the load. It's extra work at the other end, but if it saves you and it saves the load and it saves your tarps, I will. I've thrown my 6-footers underneath my 8-footers before just to save the load and the tarps. It's a pain in the arse because you've got to unfold them all or roll them out, sorry, then tie them down, and then you've got to take them off and fold them all back up, and it is a pain in the arse. But I would rather do that extra work and save the load and save my tarps than I would to not do it and lose my tarps and then lose the load. So sometimes you've got to do it, man, and I've done it a few times, maybe not even a handful, where I've had to like use all my tarps. So and that's like the other day I was looking at my load and I'm like, do I throw my 8-footers over the top just so my 8-footers are covering the load to protect the load, or am I going to be okay? And I'm like, no, I should be okay. I should get away without any damage being done to the tarp. So that's why I always roll my plastic, because plastic sheeting, I always roll that plastic out over the load as well. I hope to get down and get another load of bar stock. If I get another load of bar stock, I can pick up a new sheet. I gave my other sheet to Desperado. So. Get to the 4112 exit, then we're getting off. slow me down is I've got to go to back roads, so the speeds drop. It always makes it a little awkward because when you're I don't run GPS. I just look at Google, because Google gives me traffic, and I'm more interested in traffic. I pretty much know where I'm going, I know what I'm up against, but Google will give me updates on traffic, and that's why I'm not a fan of Google, but I appreciate Google because it can give me that information. So I don't run any truck GPSs or anything like that. I think Alabama Chief said he was going to lend me his Garmin to see if I liked it or not. He was going to let me use that. And that was Alabama Chief is an awesome person. He's a pretty cool dude. I fell asleep on him today, not because he bored me to death. I was just tired and I laid down, and I shouldn't lay down. And I laid down and I started falling asleep. But Alabama Chief is an exceptional person. I have a lot of time for Alabama Chief. We're very similar in our views when it comes to the world, and I like that because I can communicate with somebody who I don't have to argue with, and I can see his point and he'll see my point, and we'll look at it. Sometimes he's said things to me and they've made sense, and other times they make absolutely no sense. And I probably are the same when it comes towards me saying it's Alabama. That, and obviously he's an Alabama lad, so I like Alabama, man. Alabama's another state I like. It's a beautiful state. I like the states for their beauty. And Alabama's got a lot of beauty in that state, but it has a lot of bad weather as well. They have some hard times in Alabama. The people are pretty awesome. They have you have your areas, which is any part of the world, no matter where you go. So they have their areas, but most of the time they're all pretty decent. They're always friendly. Never really met a bad one, not yet. Even when you go to bar stop there for CMC out of Birmingham, Alabama, even them boys are awesome. They're always good. Jiggles around in my cup holder because it's not 100%. It doesn't fit in there properly, so it jiggles and that makes that noise. My phone's great at picking up every other noise and making it loud, but the one where I'm speaking, so it can never pick up when I'm speaking. It's always super quiet. You can hear me, but not 100%. I've got certain people say that they can't hear me. I'm not going to subscribe to your channel because I can't hear you. I didn't ask you to subscribe anyway. You're good, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. You're not going to upset me, mate, because I didn't really ask for you to subscribe. I don't ever do any of that. But I will say this, and I always feel at this point in the video, near the end of the video, that nobody's listening, because I guarantee, when I look at my stats never says that anybody's watched it the whole way through, aside from YouTube and my sister. But it always makes me laugh. I've had people that were like, they just say the most weirdest shit, man. Like, okay then, you're not really bothering me, dude. It doesn't really matter. If you do or don't, I'm just grateful for what I have. So. And for the few people that do subscribe, and for the few people that do watch it, I'm always grateful for that. And if it gives you, once again, if it gives you joy, then have at it. I'm happy for you, so I really am, and I mean that. And if looking at this picture going down the road, which is extremely boring for a lot of people, and a lot of people do the same thing, and there is an abundance of channels out there. There's way better channels than mine. Mine's not even a channel. I'm not an influencer. I'm not a channel. This is just me talking shit to a screen to my parents back in England. And that's all this is. That's all it was ever designed for. And it was designed for that. And I just chose that if anybody else wanted to carry on watching, anybody else got some enjoyment out of it, have at it. It's always nice to bring a little bit of joy. But I do like the people that throw comments out there. It's like, It's so ridiculous. And they're right. There's one particular person that explained to me that there's 10 million billion other channels out there just like yours. I guarantee you they're not like mine, mate. Mine is the most unique channel because it's not like anybody else's. I do not do the same as everybody